Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grand Rounds. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Lydia Howell. So Dr. Howell and I met. Dr. Howell and I actually met about 6 years ago when I interviewed for a job at UC Davis. And I think the thing that was really impressionable to me is that you may not know this at the time because maybe your faculty don't tell you this, but they were just so inspired by your leadership. And so many faculty with whom I met were saying, God, can you be Dr. Howell's chair? And she just inspires us, and it's just so great and so refreshing to have a chair that they really like. And it was fun to see that in that department, and it was fun. So I ended up coming to the University of Minnesota for my job, but I like to read a lot of different things. And one of the things that I read about is just different issues in academic medicine. It could be tracks in academic medicine, career flexibility, face-time bias, a lot of things that kind of affect the way that we as academicians interact with one another. And what was really cool is actually Dr. Howell has actually authored a lot of these papers. So Dr. Howell grew up in Chicago, and she went to Northwestern for medical school and ended up studying anatomic and clinical pathology as well as cytopathology at Temple University. So she relocated to UC Davis, and she's really been a leader there. She advanced to full professor quickly. She was director of cytopathology. She was director of anatomic pathology, and she did a lot of leadership within the dean's office and thought about a lot of academic things. Now, one of the reasons that I thought it would be a good idea to invite Dr. Howell is that the medical school has a Women in Leadership Committee, and they were trying to identify speakers that could come talk about a Grand Rounds topic for a department, as well as a topic relevant to the Women in Leadership Committee. And I thought Dr. Howell would be perfect for this because she actually at one point had a $1.3 million grant from the NIH to look at women's careers in biomedical sciences and family-friendly policies. There are very few people that have that type of extramural funding for that specific topic. So Dr. Howell will be talking today about growing our own in academic pathology, faculty development, leadership, and diversity. And in addition, tomorrow there's a Women in Leadership lecture series that takes place during Department of Medicine Grand Rounds called Creating an Academic Culture for Success, findings for a 4-year NIH funded career flexibility study. That's at 12:15 tomorrow in Moose Tower 2690, so I hope you can consider attending that lecture as well. So Dr. Howell, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce you and have you here. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for the inspiring words and letting me know what my faculty think about me. It is, you always worry that they really hate you, so it's a tough job. But I am really excited to be here. I actually have a little bit of a Minnesota connection. I lived in Minneapolis at ages 5 and 6, just for a short time. Then my parents decided it was time to go back and be close to family in Chicago. So it is kind of fun to come back to where I guess, started my academic career in kindergarten. But I want to thank all of you for coming and being interested in this talk. I know Grand Rounds are often about scientific topics or clinical topics, but I do think it's important that we think about the other aspects of our careers too, which is growing the next generation of faculty. That is, after all, why we are here as faculty. A university is really about education, and so growing the future is what we do. Lots of other places do clinical care, lots of other places do research, but only at a university, only at a school do we educate. And so I think it's important that part of our education includes growing that next generation to replace us. We have really great careers, and we want to make sure that others are inspired to come behind us to be the next department chair, the next whatever in academic medicine and academic pathology in particular. So I hope there's some useful insights for all of you. So disclosures, I have no financial interest. I always wish I could get rich off of something, but no, this isn't it. I do have a daughter that works at LinkedIn, and I actually find the place that she works to be very inspiring. I get a lot of ideas from her. It's fun to have a daughter outside of medicine. I have one who's actually in internal medicine, but it's fun to have someone who does something completely different. So I am going to mention a few things about LinkedIn. There's no financial benefits to her. And frankly, a lot of what I find, often when I Google different topics, LinkedIn seems to pop up. So it's really not just through my daughter that I discover these things. So objectives, we have to have that for CME purposes. This is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about why it's important to develop our future pathology faculty, some insights from the Association of American Medical Colleges Faculty Forward Survey. I was involved in some of the analysis for that. And describe some approaches, some things we've done at UC Davis. When you get ideas, I would love to hear your ideas too, because one of the great things about visiting a place is getting to learn from others and getting to take ideas home. So why do we care about developing the next generation of faculty? Well, there is a pathology shortage expected. We have a great career. We want to make sure people come and join us. But there is a gap looming in pathology, and this is from the College of American Pathologists, this data, and you can see that the need is growing there in the green line. This is because we have an aging population. More people are going to need health care, more people are going to need pathologists and pathology services, but we have an aging workforce. The majority of pathologists are my age or older, and in fact we're even older as a specialty as far as our average age than most other specialties. The all specialty average is 42.6%, so we are an older population. And because of that, there is a decline in practicing pathologists, and that's this sort of retirement cliff that you see here. The supply is dropping. Not everybody works forever. We can work well into older ages than just 65, the traditional retirement age, which isn't such a retirement age anymore, and that's great. But nobody works to 100, so people do retire at some point. I sure hope that I retire at some point. That practicing pathologists are dropping, and on top of that, we have a decline in pathologists in training. I think there's been a big primary care push nationwide. A lot of students who come into medicine are attracted to primary care, and not too many people think of pathology. So there's actually a gap. We aren't training as much as our replacements. And I'm sure that's great news to the residents who are sitting here. They think, great, there's going to be a lot of jobs. That's wonderful. But we can't have too big of a gap. So we want to make sure that we close that gap, and we want to make sure that we are welcoming to others. And if you look at our workforce is really changing a lot. Here's the active pathologists, and actually this blue bar somehow got cut off. That's actually international grads. So you can see our active pathologists are largely male. And we can see a big shift in the generation coming up behind us. This is from the LHowell. That's a slight increase in international grads, but really the big shift in our workforce is a gender shift with a lot more women joining pathology. And so I love this quote from Janet Bickle, who basically was in charge of faculty affairs for the LHowell several years ago. And she says, given that 50% of our medical students are women, the future of any specialty is really linked to the development of its women professionals. And I think that's really true. We really need to make sure that we are welcoming in every way to everyone, so that we have the workforce what we need, especially in academic medicine. And it's not just that women are different or women need special privileges, but women can be canaries in the coal mine, that sometimes the most vulnerable provide the first signals of trouble in an environment. If we keep the vulnerable healthy, often it's the women or the underrepresented minorities, then it's really a healthy environment for everyone. So again, something to keep in mind as we think about our workforce for the future. So, there's going to be obviously this pathology gap. Everybody is going to be recruiting hard for pathologists, be it private practice groups, large multi-specialty groups, industry who needs pathologists. So there's going to be lots of competition. So for those people that enter pathology, we need to make sure there's a great pipeline for that. Will pathologists, young pathologists, will they choose academic pathology out of all those opportunities that are out there? And if they choose academic pathology, are they going to choose your school and your department? Are you really a welcoming place? And if they come, will they stay? And so I think that's sort of the sense of urgency that we have in making sure that we have a really welcome environment, making sure that we're developing our faculty and encouraging a great career for others right here. So they come and so they stay. The LHowell, I think, provides some great insight into academic pathology, and I'm going to be sharing more of this data, but here's just a little taste to get us started. They have a survey that they call the Faculty Forward Survey. I think the name just changed to COACH. But basically, they survey a representative group nationwide every year. And here you can see that when asked about level of satisfaction with my department as a workplace, again, academic department as a workplace, almost 70% say they're very satisfied or satisfied, but about a third say they're lukewarm to unsatisfied or very dissatisfied. And so, you know, again, I'm usually a glass half full kind of person. I'm usually an optimist. Right, 70% of people are really happy. But I guess I would say that that's really not full enough. That 30%, almost a third of people being to really dissatisfied, you know, I think that's a sign of trouble. And I think if we were to think of this, say, as a pathologic lesion, if there was a breast lesion or a thyroid lesion or a liver lesion that had about a 30% chance of turning into something bad, we'd probably want to have an intervention. We'd consider it high risk. So I think this is a sign that there's some high risk issues in our environment. And some more room for improvement from the LHowell. Do you plan to leave this medical school in the next 1 to 2 years? Again, this is pathology data. And about a quarter say, gee, you know, I'm not sure. I might be considering leaving. So again, room for improvement. And do you plan to leave academic medicine in the next 1 to 2 years? Of this 25%, are you going to just move to another medical school, or do you think you might be going somewhere else? Of those, almost half say they might leave academics. So I think, again, we have lots of room for improvement. These are really great opportunities for us to think hard about our environment and what we might need to do. So I'm going to give a little insights into academic pathology. What do academic pathologists have to say about ourselves? It's kind of hard to know sometimes. We know about us, our own personal, or maybe the guy in the office next door that you gab with. But you know, as a profession, as a specialty, what do we say about ourselves? And I think if we back it up a little bit, just to ask, why do people leave their jobs in general? Again, this is from LinkedIn's Global Job Report. Glassdoor has done something similar. Why do people change jobs? And this is what they found from their survey of over 10,000 job changers from all industries. Lack of opportunity is number one. People want to be able to advance. They want to be able to grow in their careers. They're unsatisfied with the leadership of their senior management. And they're unsatisfied with their work environment or culture. So I think it's interesting to explore through the LHowell data, do similar reasons exist in academic pathology? Because if we know, then we can kind of plan improvement. So the LHowell, again, does this annual survey. Usually it's about 12 to 25 medical schools each year. People volunteer for this, schools volunteer for this. And usually it has a pretty broad geographic distribution, so you know it's usually pretty representative. And the intent is to create data to actually check the pulse of academic medicine, to help recruit and retain, to manage faculty engagement, and to support talent management. So sort of know where you need to drill down, where you need to focus your efforts. And it's really designed around organizational culture. And culture is really important. That's something that I think we hear a lot about, that if you get culture right, everything will just take care of itself. Culture's the secret weapon. Culture is everything. And if, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. This is the most important thing. So I think it's a great opportunity that the LHowell gives us. That doesn't really tell us what culture is. And so, in Googling and trying to figure out, okay, but define culture, what does that mean? Michael Watkins, and I've actually read some of his writing, and he does some blogs. He's a consultant at Genesis Advisors, used to be on the faculty, I think, at Harvard Business School. And this is some of the definitions that he got from sort of an online discussion. Culture is how organizations do things. It's our behaviors, it's our habits. It's how we do things here. And it's a shared description of who we are and what is, sort of how we define ourselves. So I think that's important to think about as we think about what we're learning about academic pathology through this data and how we want to change and be different. So I'm going to share with you some data from 2 different survey years, from 2012, and actually I worked with Valerie Dantar at the LHowell and Faculty Forward. We published this data in Archives of Pathology and Lab Medicine. There were 14 schools that year, pretty good response rates there. Geographic distribution was almost even. A few more southern schools in 2014, and this was a year that UC Davis actually participated. And they asked lots of questions in all kinds of different domains: collegiality, mission, mentoring, growth, all kinds of stuff. It's really very rich in data. And they give you specialty data. They give you data, your department compared to your specialty in general, compared to peer schools. If you want to pull out a few schools that you think are most like you, it's a great opportunity. So let's see what we can learn about work environment. And again, just pulled out a few things that I think are insightful about work environment. And what struck me here is that when you talk about work environments, a lot of it's really in the environments about relationships. A lot of my faculty, I actually, every year when we have our career planning sessions, I ask, I have a few sort of set questions as conversation starters. And this past year, I sort of borrowed some questions from the stay interview concept. And I said, so what makes you stay here? You're a talented person. You could go anywhere. Why do you stay? Because obviously lots of people are leaving. And so why do you stay? And people tell me, usually, the answer they say, it's because of their colleagues. They love the relationships. They love their friends at work. They like the people that they get to work with. And that's what they often really care about. But interestingly, 1 in 5 aren't very satisfied with those interactions. Professional interactions, personal interactions, and the feeling that faculty get along well. Again, so I think focusing on relationships can be important in creating really a great culture. And that's a great window and opportunity for us to address those. And then feelings of appreciation and fit. How well do I fit in my department? That sense of belonging. So again, sometimes we think, oh well, we just hire people, come to work, do your thing. But these things really mean a lot. And again, how can we foster that so people want to come, so that they want to stay? Flexibility is something that I care a lot about. I raised 2 daughters while having my career, and I think that's true for lots of people, that lots of our faculty have many other responsibilities in their life, and they have to juggle all that, be it family, parents, whoever. So do colleagues respect the efforts to balance my work and home? And again, about a quarter are either lukewarm or dissatisfied in some way about that. So again, another really great opportunity for us to look at, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So that's some insights into work environment. What about leadership? Again, a lot of culture, the tone is set by the leaders in the department. And so there are some insights on leadership. Again, good advice for whether it's a department chair, for a division chief. And again, input and participation. Faculty want to be able to participate. They want to give input. They want to be able to participate in governance. And about more than half are less than satisfied by their opportunity to participate or to put in or to give some input. And communication, relationship with the leaders, also some room for improvement. Communication can be really important in inspiring and sharing, making people feel that they know what's going on. So again, also room for improvement, great opportunities for us to pull these things out to figure out how we're going to improve our departments. And then there's that concern about lack of opportunity for advancement. Again, that's the #1 reason people leave. And again, though we don't always have that leadership role for everybody, sometimes there's only one director or one, but people want to feel that there is an opportunity for them to rise, to do more things, and to grow. And so again, what insights do we have from Faculty Forward? Growth opportunities, a third are not very satisfied, and promotion equality. Obviously, there's a little more satisfaction there. I wonder if some of that reflects formal institutional policies, which help people kind of, stay in an even playing field. But nonetheless, there is that squishy factor. You kind of don't really know necessarily how it's going to turn out, or again, the voting factor that happens among your colleagues, or the review of committees. Again, there is that subjective piece. And again, maybe that's something that people are worried about there. In 2012, when I worked with the LHowell, we pulled out the data and we did some gender differences to see, is it different for men versus women faculty? Again, knowing that we have this growing change, a gender shift in pathology departments, and how does that give us some insights in what we need to do as departments? And there were some interesting differences. Professional advancement is clearly important to everybody. So again, everybody wants that opportunity, they want to grow. I thought it was interesting. I mean, obviously high, close to 80% for men, almost 90% for women, so important for everyone. But interestingly, even more important for women. A really high priority. And I wonder if that's because advancement and opportunities has traditionally at least eluded women. And so they're more sensitive and tuned into that and striving even more. And pace of advancement. Again, just about everybody was not particularly satisfied. Men were a little more satisfied, but just barely over the 50% mark. And women, slightly less than 50%. So again, pace of advancement, something that we need to think about, make people know that there's opportunities and they can grow and they don't have to wait forever. So something to think about. There's also gender differences as far as perceptions of equal opportunity. My medical school offers equal opportunity to all faculty regardless of gender. Men felt pretty strongly that yes, they were satisfied with that, but women much less, 58.3. So women perceive less opportunity at their school. Again, more opportunities for us to do things about that. And mentorship and feedback can be an important part of opportunity and creating opportunity. And feedback, interestingly, is rated even more highly than mentorship. People, I guess, want more regular, perhaps informal feedback as to how they're doing. So I think that's important. Maybe that reflects the emphasis on feedback in training and residency and fellowship, that we're supposed to give feedback. And so, the newer generations want and expect that, because that has been the tradition. And so we need to think about that for our faculty too. And mentorship. I get asked that a lot when I recruit new faculty. It seems I often get asked to tell me about your mentorship program. So mentorship is up there, but clearly much more important for women. Again, maybe that sense, that perception of less opportunity, and that a mentor could really make more of a difference. So important. But still, women as canaries in the coal mine, we may think of it as a women's issue, but clearly a substantial percentage of men want that too. Not on this graph, but also from the data, is that fewer women felt that they were actively encouraged or they were listened to. So again, that feeling of participation and again, probably reflecting the need for feedback. So clearly there's lots of issues, but these issues are opportunities for us. So opportunities, we want to address opportunity, we want to address mentorship, work-life integration, leadership and fit. So that's what we are saying about ourselves. But is that unique to us? What do others say about careers in academic medicine? There's this interesting article that actually a colleague and I were asked to write an editorial for, and it was about the experience of KO8 awardees, again, from lots of different specialties, not just pathology. And KO8s are obviously a really important career development opportunity for faculty. So their experience, I think, their feedback is really important for us to know how we're doing in helping to develop our young faculty. And it had a great response rate, 75%. And so they asked them about, a variety of things, but they asked about issues and inadequacies. And even for KO8 awardees, who are kind of the special chosen ones in a formal program, a third reported inadequacies as far as physical resources, like space or equipment. And again, there were no gender disparities. So here you think something like space or equipment would be something that, okay, we're planning for this. We're going to give you space. We're going to give you equipment. We're going to give you the things you need. And as many as a third said it was inadequate. What was, I thought, particularly interesting was that the shared resources or the pooled resources, the things that didn't need to be assigned, but were generally available to everybody, also had high inadequacies. Things like a grant administrator or statistics support. And men reported inadequacies, at about a quarter. So clearly there were some inadequacies for men, but women were almost double in their perceptions of inadequacy. Again, these are shared resources, things that should be available to everyone. Why did women feel that they had less than men when it comes to accessing that? So really kind of a puzzle, something that the paper sort of put out there as an alert to departments. And unlike space, these are soft resources that are not assigned. So really access becomes more informal. If something's assigned to you, you may feel that you have an official authorization to use these things. But soft resources, you just have to access it and figure it out. And some of that access and opportunity may actually reflect really gender differences. That are there gender differences in assertiveness? Assertiveness among women might be a little different than men, especially in a male-dominated laboratory, for example. Feeling comfortable in the culture of the workplace, and again, in mentorship, and are women getting the same mentorship as men? And I guess, again, the canaries in the coal mine, a lot of this may also reflect cultural differences for international awardees, too. But again, there are cultural differences in assertiveness, in their culture, in their feeling of fit or comfort in the workplace, and in mentorship. So I think that's something that, again, we need to be very aware of, that it's not just a one-size-fits-all, and that we need to consciously address these things. Women KO8 awardees also reported more unfair treatment, again, significantly more than men. And really what we sort of reinforced is that it really reinforces the conclusions from the National Academies report, that a lot of these things are what the report referred to as micro inequities, these little things, that sort of little drip all the time of not being able to have access to shared resources, not getting the mentorship, not feeling comfortable in the workplace. And these are the things, the little things that accumulate, that create career dissatisfaction and loss. And the National Academies report, again, emphasized the need for mentorship. So again, women as canaries in the coal mine, substantial percentages of men were affected too. So again, this sort of should raise our awareness that we need to address these things, and it will really raise the boat for everyone. And so what about work-life balance? This is something, again, that I care a lot about, and that I had a NIH-funded grant with one of my colleagues, as Michael pointed out. And so how can we get faculty to respect more efforts to balance work and home life? What insights do we have on that? In our study at UC Davis, we actually surveyed not just our school, we surveyed the College of Biological Sciences and the vet school, so others involved with biomedical careers, academic careers. And we looked at the impact of family on faculty career satisfaction. And we got lots of data. I'm going to be sharing a lot in my talk tomorrow to the Women in Leadership program. So, and we sliced and diced it in many ways. But one of the things we looked at was clinical versus non-clinical faculty. How does that affect careers and their level of family responsibility? We didn't have a real high response rate like the LHowell, but still it was a good response rate. And in general, just about everybody, whether they were non-clinical, which is the solid bar, or the dotted bar, which was clinical, nobody was super satisfied with their work-life balance. You can see if they had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 3, just about everybody was either neutral or below. We have tough careers. These are challenging. but family really seemed to make a difference. And for the non-clinical faculty, even if they had, their lowest satisfaction was for those that had no family responsibilities at all, unlike the clinical faculty who were higher. And it sort of crossed with children. For those with children under 18, the non-clinical faculty approached and exceeded the clinical faculty, which is sort of an interesting phenomenon. The non-clinical faculty were in general less satisfied, except when they had children. So why could that be? What I suspect is that a lot of it is financial security, that even if you don't have children, grant funding is a very fragile salary source, and that there's a lot of stress. I see it in my faculty, I hear about it in lots of places, and that's very stressful and affects one's satisfaction with their career and their work-life balance. They have to just plain work hard, whereas clinical faculty, who are working hard too and aren't super satisfied, they are more satisfied because at least they know they have a pretty solid salary support. But when faculty have children, I think the potentially more flexible schedule of researchers may raise their satisfaction. Well, I feel fragile about my funding, but at least when I'm trying to juggle my family, I have some flexibility. I'm not locked into a clinic schedule. I'm not locked into a sign out, a formal, 8 to 5 work hours or something like that. So it might be easier for them to juggle. And clearly there's more work to be done because nobody seems very satisfied. And I'm obviously going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow. So what are we hearing from pathology faculty and others about academic careers? I hope I haven't depressed you too much. These are great opportunities for us. We have challenging careers. There's some inequities, family responsibilities, influence satisfaction. And there's a desire for more inclusive and collegial work environment, for more participation, for opportunities for growth and advancement, and for mentorship and feedback. So these are really all great opportunities for us because we do have wonderful careers. It's challenging, but the challenge is what makes it fun. And we could really enjoy what we do and attract more people to what we do if we could address some of these things. So how can we address them? Well, if I had all the perfect solutions, I would have the most perfect department in the whole world, and I really don't. But it is something that I consciously think about and work at. So I'm kind of eager to share some of those ideas with you. Again, this gets down to culture, and you can't just say, okay, I heard Lydia's talk, things are going to change. Tomorrow is a new day. We are going to be different. And you can't really just change the culture. And actually, one of the first things I read from Michael Watkins was this article on organizational immunology. He actually got a science background before he decided to become an organizational consultant. And he actually defined culture, workplace culture, as being a lot like the immune system. So I think that's something we can relate to. That, it defines who we are and how we do things. And like the immune system, it prevents bad thinking, bad ideas, bad people from coming in and doing damage. It can force bad ideas out. So we can't really necessarily, say everything's going to change, because that can be pretty threatening to our immune system, to our culture, and people might easily just reject that. So we can't be too strong. So we need to be subtle, like the immune system, and bring in new ideas. So he suggests an immunological approach to culture change, which I kind of like. Be a sophisticated virus. Be subtle. Fool the immune system and inject new ideas and new thoughts and new practices without killing the culture, without killing the host, without getting everybody to reject you right off the bat. And vaccinate. Create a new level of immunity, a new culture, by being a role model, by finding role models and promoting role models. So, we can start with something pre-existing, and like I said, I have done a lot of work around family and career flexibility policies, and most schools have them, so I'm guessing you do too. This can be a great way to improve your culture by addressing flexibility. There was a report in the LHowell or academic medicine that all the top 10 medical schools have some sort of flexibility policies, though they vary at each. And Sarah Bunton from the LHowell did a survey of medical schools. And again, these are just some examples of what career flexibility policies can be, like stop the clock. Stop that 7-year tenure clock for promotion, for childcare, for medical disability, for care of a family member. You can get some extra time. At UC Davis, we have very generous leave policies for childbirth, for family care up to childbirth is 3 months, family care can extend even longer, as long as a year. Men can access these too. And there's leaves for medical leave and other things that get to be support salaries during that time. So starting with something that and using them and encouraging their use can help change the culture. And in fact, other places are really looking to attract faculty by promoting their career flexibility policies. This was a full-page ad in academic medicine, and I almost fell over when I saw this and thought, oh my gosh. They are bragging, right down here, you probably can't read it, about their generous flexibility policies, about their generous parental leave. That's their exact words, generous parental leave, childcare on site. So again, promoting this can help change the culture and address that feeling of fit within the department, of relationships, of people being supportive in your need to balance career flexibility. As part of our study at UC Davis, we again surveyed our faculty, and we asked them to rate the flexibility policies. Do they think they're important for recruitment or retention, important for career advancement? We broke the data out by generation and gender. So again, young men, younger women, less than 50, men over 50, women over 50. And actually, to our surprise, everybody rated these policies as important. On a scale of 1 to 5, you can see these are almost a 5, 4 and higher. It's important for career advancement, important for recruitment. We were expecting the younger faculty to say they thought these were more important, and the older faculty say, oh, who cares? The younger faculty should just tough it out like we did. But everybody sees these as important, and I think that's really an important statement about our culture, and I don't think that's necessarily unique. And people don't know that. People think that these are going to be somehow held against them. But interestingly, women, both younger women and older women, deemed these even more important than men. We might expect younger women because of the childbearing and childcare, but older women, studies have shown, have a higher incidence of need for care for elders. Older women, in fact, older working women, have a huge burden of elder care, far more than men do. So I think, again, we're seeing that in that generation, and even again for the men, that they see that as important. We had looked at use. We found that not many people are using them, so that's a problem. They think it's important, but not everybody's using them. A third or more in some of these groups said they wanted to use them but didn't make the request, something keeping them from accessing them. And time off, that they took time off for family or personal needs, but it wasn't enough. And everybody, even the older men, older than age 50, 92%. So I think, again, it shows that this is something that everybody cares about. And when we did, we got reams and reams of comments back, a qualitative analysis, and that there's kind of a pervasive misinformation out there. That you had to take vacation, that it had to be repaid. We were told that adoption wasn't part of it. We wish somebody had told us. So this has really helped us. We've had an educational campaign. We've done a lot of things around this, trying to encourage use and kind of get rid of that misinformation. There's also a lot of barriers. People said that they didn't use them for a whole variety of reasons. We've asked financial, burdening colleagues, heavier assignment later, looking less committed. And again, it was, kind of across the board there, but looking less committed here, less committed to your career, or burdening colleagues were the highest, and women more frequently reported these barriers. So again, women are more sensitive, but clearly, canaries in the coal mine, everybody, substantial percentages of all generations and genders think this is important. So, to create that culture change, I really think that you need to incentivize your values. You need to, put your money where your mouth is, and you can shape the culture through your compensation plan. So we try in our compensation plans, but people don't feel that they're burdening others, to provide some sort of reward for those who are covering, or to raise the visibility of contributions that those who are off or on leave may be making, so that people appreciate their colleagues, so that they look like they're committed to their career, so they're seen as team players, and again, so that we reward those who are others. So think about how in your compensation plan you can help put your money where your mouth is and shape your culture and encourage people to use and recognize the value of having policies like that. I think highlighting role models is important. We did this in our intervention to kind of raise awareness and use. My colleague Nate Cooperman, who's the chair of emergency medicine, his wife is an endowed chair in pediatrics. They sequentially used family leave for an adoption. Nicole first, then she went back to work. Nate became the primary caregiver to help their newly adopted daughter from Guatemala adjust to her new home. And my friend Karen Lindfors was the first to hold a part-time faculty appointment in our school. I too held a part-time faculty appointment. I was part-time for 16 years, worked 80%, so I consider myself a role model too. Something I didn't talk about for a long time, but I was afraid people wouldn't think I was serious or I was on the mommy track. But clearly people like me can become a department chair. I was an associate dean too. You can grow to have leadership positions. Yes, even when you're a part-time faculty member. So getting that word out there, that people who use flexibility can still be leaders and accomplished and won't be held against you. Mentorship, I think, is important. People like that can be great mentors, and I think everybody loves mentorship. It's sort of like mom, pop, and apple pie, so why not use that to change your culture? I know you have a mentoring program here. There's lots of different ones. And there's been published success on that. It's easy. It's not always easy to find a mentor or a good one. I always say it's sort of like, will you be my mentor? It's sort of like, will you be my boyfriend? It can be a little embarrassing. There has to be a certain chemistry there. Sometimes you have to kind of help it along. But in our department, we create mentoring teams. Everybody is assigned a primary mentor for at least a year to get them started. Then they can maybe find the people that they have that chemistry with. But most people kind of stick with their mentor and just add along the way. I have a faculty member who just became our director of Search Path. She was assigned a mentor when she first came, who was the AP director. But now that she's the Search Path director, we've added a mentor from internal medicine. The vice chair of clinical services there is going to be her mentor. And we've added a mentor who's the AP director at Stanford to her mentorship team. Sometimes it's great to have people outside your department, because they can bring something new to the table and you can talk to them about the department problems that maybe you can't talk to your colleagues about. We create individual development plans. I know you do too. And we are helped along by a mentoring academy at UC Davis. They help provide some structure. They have workshops and evaluations. Training both mentors and mentees, and that's really valuable. Here's an example of our mentoring agreements. So there is some structure. You have to check off how often you're going to meet. You don't have to meet often. People can customize it. But again, there's a little structure that I think is really helpful. And just expectations of mentees, just pulled out advice to those who are here, who are mentees, to be prepared, help develop priorities, to be proactive. Don't just wait for the mentor to do everything for you. And expand your team as needed, because you might need a mentor for work-life balance in addition to your research mentor or the mentor that helps you navigate the clinical service or something like that. And again, our Mentoring Academy has workshops, and they train the mentors So again, the mentors aren't necessarily just winging it based on their own personal and perhaps imperfect experience. We do train the mentors. And what I think is really great is that the promotion process is recognizing mentorship as a form of teaching so that there's some credit there. Again, putting your money where your mouth is and adding that to the formal reward system and recognizing it there. We have done some things in our department to address fit in the department. Again, that feeling that I belong, because like the data, that I was kind of surprised that there was a small but substantial percentage of people who felt that they felt that they didn't belong. And I think relationships are really important. So we've tried to, get people out, mixing and mingling a little bit. I participated in a mentoring roundtable, and I was surprised at how people from other departments came not to find a mentor, but because they were kind of lonely. They were looking for friends. They were so busy. So we've kind of done some social events like that. And again, showing appreciation and gratitude. At holiday time, you can donate $10 to honor a faculty member or a colleague or a staff member. We raise money and we donate it to charity. We donate about $3,000. So again, kind of showing appreciation. A little note goes that so-and-so donated a star in your honor. Lab week, you could write little things, little messages. Thank you for whatever. This did fill up. We're not that ungrateful. And I think it all fits into the concept of inclusion excellence, that really it's about making people feel included, making them feel a part of the environment. This I actually learned from David Acosta, who's the Chief Diversity Officer, the LHowell, but he was our Chief Diversity Officer at UC Davis. And so I really like, there's many strategies here that we can borrow from to create a better learning environment. Opportunity is important. So I think that means not just mentorship, but sponsorship. And those of you who are mentors should think about how you can turn mentorship into sponsorship and advocate and promote. Or maybe it's not the mentor who can do that, and mentees need to find others who can help get you out there, suggest you for things, and advocate so that you get opportunities, so that you can become a candidate for something, so you can get put on a committee. Elizabeth Travis wrote a really nice article on sponsorship. I shared this at the Association of Pathology Chairs. I think you need to create opportunity for yourself, and it's not just about moving up. Moving sideways and having different experiences can help create opportunity for yourself. This is something that they do in business a lot. They move people around the organization into different roles. Like Anna Corrales at Cisco went from manufacturing to procurement to finance. Now, obviously, people, in academic medicine, I can move to internal medicine or radiology or something. But I think your public service and your opportunities to participate in committees, be they university committees, be it professional committees, CAP committees, I hear lots of you are involved in CAP committees, or in state or national organizations, can help give you opportunities and help demonstrate that you can be a leader. And so, for example, if you're on quality committees, you can kind of develop your portfolio of skills and brand yourself as a quality leader, potentially become a chief quality officer or some sort of clinical leader in your institution. Likewise, teaching, you can build a focus. And you can also obtain experiences that you couldn't otherwise have, like fundraising or leadership roles in professional organizations or in committees, and you can prove to others that you're a leader and worthy of other opportunities, because you can demonstrate your personal qualities, that you're creative, you're collaborative, you're a problem solver. So again, this is sort of my lattice. I've climbed the ladder, but I've done lots of different things, from cancer committees to task forces for the NCI and the CDC, to leading a salary equity study, to being involved in my professional organizations, fundraising, and as president of a society. And again, new experiences, new skills that I grew through some of those activities. So think about that. And lastly, I just want to mention leadership development, because really leaders create the culture that allow faculty to thrive. I'm the chair of the APC's Leadership Development and Diversity Committee. So all of academic pathology is interested in overcoming some of these challenges that the LHowell data shows us. We want to train leaders so we can create better cultures. We started the Pathology Leadership Academy these past 2 years, kind of assessing that to see what directions do we want to go. We've gotten great feedback. It's something that I think we will continue, and I hope some of you will think about participating in that. It's for helping to grow people into our future leaders. And we do a lot of other things that get to help grow leaders. So anyway, here's our Leadership Academy. We're even considering a level 2 course. It's pretty basic, a day and a half. So can we turn it into then launch people into something bigger, like distance learning with a mentored project. Other organizations have leadership programs. I was just at ASCP. They do too. I was talking about that with Blair Holliday, the CEO, about how we might be able to partner and create perhaps a special track within that for academic pathology, which could be pretty cool. And so lastly, I just think we have wonderful careers here. And though, I share some examples from LinkedIn, I really think that these great workplaces, these Silicon Valley workplaces that get touted as so wonderful, what they're really trying to do, frankly, is be like us. They look so great because they are doing something different. They're doing what we have always done. I went to Take Your Parents to Work day with my daughter. And yes, they actually have something like that because nobody really knows what anyone does on LinkedIn. So my husband and I have both gone. We still aren't too sure what she does. Just one of those things. But as I'm sitting there, they were touting what a wonderful workplace they were. They were saying how we strive to provide our employees with lifelong learning. They have an annual guest speaker, or an annual monthly guest speakers. I mean, big names like Ariana Huffington came and spoke like that. Well, you know what? We are all about lifelong learning. That is part of what we do. We have grand rounds. You have guest speakers like me. You get even bigger and better guest speakers. I mean, there are all kinds of opportunities for lifelong learning and for people to attend things. I mean, that's unique. We do it all the time. Community service. They actually give people a day off a month, and they can go out as teams and do community service and bond. You know what? Community service is part of our expectations for professional advancement. And yes, we give people time off so they can go be on a CAP committee, or so they can go be on a committee, on some committees for the California Department of Health. So again, we do that too. Unique to the business world, this is us. And they really kind of promote their noble purpose. At LinkedIn, their mission is economic opportunity for everyone in the world to do a great job, to try to connect people to economic opportunity, which I do think is a wonderful mission. That a good job means a healthy community. It raises the quality of life in the world. So they have a noble purpose, and they really get it out there. But you know what? Nobody has a more noble purpose than we do. Discovering and sharing knowledge, advancing health, caring for the sick. Nobody has a more noble purpose than us. So I think we take ourselves for granted. And so I think we need to say we are an amazing place. And, people like LinkedIn, they talk about it all the time. Google, we don't have, the gourmet food or the, ping pong tables. Actually, we have a ping pong table in my department now. All that cool stuff so that people can take a break. But we are really amazing. And I think we need to remember that. We need to promote that. We need to celebrate that in our departments so that people, again, will want to come, will want to stay. So I hope that's been a little source of inspiration to you too. So in summary, I've shared all the things that I said I was going to do for your CME purposes, why we care, our looming shortage, the pathology climate, the opportunities we have to make things better, some ideas that I've done in my department, and I would love to hear from all of you, your thoughts on how we can learn from each other and make academic pathology a great place. So, thank you.
I really enjoyed your talk for several reasons. Number one, I'm a part of a group tomorrow for the Pathology Interest Group for the first and second year medical students. And I got some great ideas from your talk.
Oh, thank you.
Your talk reminded me of an experience I had a few years ago. I was teaching a pathology lab, and most of the time when you teach a pathology lab, the lab just empties out in 2 minutes. Well, I was about ready to leave after everybody had left, and I looked around, and there were 2 women sitting way back in the corner, and they were actually looking at microscopes. And so I walked back.
Budding pathologists,
Yes. Well, I walked back and I asked them, is there anything I can do to help you? And one of the women looked up and she said, it looks like you like to teach. What does it take to teach? And I told them that if you're willing to work a lot harder and make a lot less money than your fellow young physicians, they will let you teach. Did I tell them the right thing or not?
Well, so you know what I tell people? That, because that can sometimes be, turn off. People say, well, in academics we make less money. And I read something once about what they call the career triangle. And everybody needs to find their sweet spot in that triangle. And let's see if I can remember all the 3 elements, but one is sort of financial security. I mean, if we all cared really about just making a lot of money, we'd all be investment bankers, right? Nobody would do anything else. So, finding that sweet spot between earning enough, finding that sweet spot between having a sense of purpose and contributing, and then kind of your personal life and having enough time off. And so, again, kind of finding that sweet spot. So, I think it's not all about the money. And what I always say is we want the people who can't imagine doing anything else than being here. We have that passion to teach. We have the passion for discovery and doing creative things. We just can't imagine working somewhere else. And then those are the people that have found that sweet spot, and it's not all about the money. They are rewarded by those other things.
So I think probably the most important question here is how much is reality versus perception? That also, regards, the gender disparity. Because for me, it's very difficult to explain exactly how you can have the same perception regarding access to space and laboratory equipment versus access to solve resources. So there was a big disparity between the
Right,
men
yeah.
and women there. And it's very difficult to explain just, so I guess it may be a matter of perception, but my question actually regards something else, that is also reality versus perception. So would you please try to elaborate a little bit regarding the perception perspective that CAP has regarding an increased number of pathologies being needed in the future versus the perception that comes from the other pathologists in the field that say that basically there is, the job market is pretty much close to saturation. So that is one thing. And the other thing is, how do you think that health insurance perspective changes in the next 5 years to impact our job?
Yeah, so I think as far as job market goes, I don't know if CAP completely considered this, but I do think they considered it somewhat, that it's really not just replacing what leaves, because the practice of pathology is changing, and we have pathology assistants now, and we have, different technologies. So yeah, maybe we don't need to replace people one-to-one, but there's still a pretty big gap, and if so few are entering the workforce, the gap can't be that big. But I do think we need to be aware that the way we work is changing, but people's expectations of the way they work are changing too. And so people don't want, to be like my father's generation. He was an obstetrician. He worked day and night. And even, the baby boomers love to work, long hours. But we've actually found that everybody's feeling a little burned out. So, again, those excessive hours in every specialty, people are less willing to take call. So I do think we need to recognize that some of that gap may be because people are wanting to work differently and not put in the excessive hours they do. So I think there is a gap. As far as perception, I agree that, people's perceptions may not necessarily be reality. Nonetheless, perceptions are perceptions. And if those perceptions keep people from staying in academics or keep people from wanting to join academics, we need to change the perception. And we need to get to be more welcoming. People may say, well, gee, you had access. How is it that you thought that you didn't have access? What is it that I could have done to have made you realize that more? Because clearly shared resources are shared resources, and they should have been there, but we get different approaches for different people. We can't assume that they know. We can't assume that they feel comfortable using it. We have to address that perception because the perceptions can kill us.
Probably have time for just one brief question. I guess the only question that I would ask of you is, within your department, what do you think is the single most important thing to employee retention?
Single most important thing to employee retention, I do think opportunity. Try to provide opportunity to everybody. Some of the opportunities people don't want, or they're looking for something different. But I do think that I've noticed in my career planning meetings with faculty, even the most junior faculty, we haven't been there very long, say, I'm ready to be a leader. I want to be a leader. So people are really looking for that. So I think making sure people feel that they have an opportunity to engage and do something special is probably one of the most important things.
Well, I encourage you all to come to Dr. Howell's tomorrow. Some of you will be meeting with her.